Dun dun dun. Oh no, my book closed. Oh, something happened. Hold on. How the heck did I go all the way to this one? What the? What the? I do know how to read, not very well. Also, why is there a page here? What the heck is happening? I know you don't. You told me. You told me you don't know how to read. It's pretty unfortunate. I'm sorry. Good thing that I'm talking to you now. Okay. Here, hold on. Am I quieter today than usual? I am! I turned down a lot of sound. I turned down because I was peaking a lot and I didn't want to peak. And so I turned down my volume, and so now I guess I'm a little quieter. I'm so scared of peaking. Okay. We'll go like, hold on. We'll go like this. There we go. A lot quieter, actually. Oh wait, it is kind of a lot quieter. Maybe, is this a little better? Is this better? I moved my microphone a little closer to me. Van! Thank you! I'm wearing my Snuggie and pajama pants. 100% volume and not even close to what it was before on 40%. Can you hear the background music okay at least? Hold on. Advanced audio properties. It's cozy? That's good. Wait, there's background music? It's really quiet. Is everything really quiet? Hold on. I put some gain on. Am I louder now? Am I louder? Am I louder? I am talking a little quieter as well. I wish I could hear myself, but like accurately. Wait, I could technically, hold on. I'm gonna record myself and then listen to myself. You can't really tell? Oh, well, that's okay. That's okay. In the meantime, how are you guys? It sounds fine to me. It sounds fine to me. Maybe I have better speakers than you. And by speakers, I mean headphones. I'm playing Bug Fables, so I'm fabulous because it's a... Oh, good! I actually saw a little bit of Bug Fables. I think. Either it was Bug Fables or something else. But I know it was Buggies. Doppio was playing it. I was gonna join on Monday, but you ended before I could. I'm okay. I'm still a little sensitive. I'm a little peewee today. Hello, Tarnished. Multitasking, gonna watch a movie, play on the Switch, and watch you. Oh, I love doing all those things together. It's making me better at multitasking. The other day, my mom came in, and I was playing Story of Seasons, and I was watching House, and then I had a stream up, and I was doing all three at once. My brain. Okay, now I'm a little hot. How come turning off my fan for like 5 minutes does that? That's weird. That's weird. But yeah, guys, I'm less sensitive than I was on Monday, I think. Did you hear that bee? The heck? Yes, you cannot handle the uber instincts of my Uber. Uber. The Uber instincts. Ubertism? What's that? Sussy. That's me. Sad I missed the catharsis stream. I'm glad you missed the catharsis stream. The one day you're touching grass, I cry. Today's a very exciting day, though, by the way, guys. If you didn't know, I'm only going to be reading for about 2 hours and a half at most. And then I'm going to go on a short break. And... Oh, I am too, don't worry. And then I'm going to go live again with Dan, who's in the chat right now. Wait. Hold on. I have this thing, and it's... Hold on. It's supposed to let me shout out people in the chat. I've never used it before. Bam! Yeah! Okay, so I'm gonna be streaming with Dan at 7. So after I'm finished reading, I'm gonna stop and then I'm gonna eat some dinner, drink more Pepsi because I'm in love with Pepsi, and then yeah. That's you! I know 2 streams! And then we're gonna play Splatoon. We're gonna play Spaboon. Also, this is really funny because it's showing me that I can shout out the bots. Shout out to Creatus Boss! Someone has a really cool icon. Pepsi. Out of Coke, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper, what's your favorite? Oh, and root beer. I think mine is Well, I know mine is Dr. Pepper. You gonna be okay? Reading then talking to me uses a lot of brain power. No, I think talking to you doesn't use any brain power. I don't think it uses any brain power. Like from the brands? Yeah. Root beer, I think root beer, like you could say any sort of root beer because it's Sprite. Oh, okay, no, not that kind of brand. Oh. Thanks. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's like, so for instance, when I was in high school, after school, we used to always go out like downtown. And my social battery would get completely sucked dry. And I only had like one friend that could actually like tell that my social battery was dead and would like hang out next to me and be like, hi. And I'd be like, hey. And then it was like they became like my shield, you know? A buffer. Even though they were talking, they were like the shield buffer. And then if my other friends who weren't actually, well, okay, the ex-friend was there. So when the ex-friend started talking, it would kind of like bounce off of my actual friend. And then it was okay. You know? That's what you are, Dan. You have the vibes of the friend that was the shield. Okay, guys. We only have a little bit today. We've got until, wait, what time? 5:30? I think until 5:30. 5:30 is my max time. So we got until 5:30 to read. And then I'm leaving to come back. so don't worry. Let's see. So, in summary from last time, we found out that we're going to be looking in 3 different POVs at least. Hopefully that stays too. I think it will. We have Brambleclaw, who was Bramblepaw in the first series, Firestar's apprentice. We have Squirrelpaw, who is Firestar's child, and Leafpaw, who is also Firestar's child. Brambleclaw is, I feel like he's a very loyal cat. He's a good boy. He wants things to be good. Then we have Squirrelpaw, who's like really sassy and kind of like fiery. Took like all of the spice and the sass from Sandstorm and Firestar combined and put it into one cat. And then Leafpaw is very mellow from what we can see so far. Chill, quiet. A medicine cat apprentice. So Leafpaw's a medicine cat apprentice. We learned, what did we learn? Oh, Brambleclaw has been having dreams, or he had a dream that Bluestar was like, oh, you must meet at the quarter moon, and midnight will show you the way. And so he thought that it was just some random dream. But then his sister, Tawny Fur? I can't remember her last name. But she says that she had a dream too. And so Brambleclaw's like, maybe this is something actually. So they decided that they're going to meet together at the 4 trees at the half moon? I forget what moon they're supposed to meet. They're going to meet at 4 trees at some moon, hopefully to meet the other cats from the other clans that were chosen with a weirdo dream. New moon, that's the moon, yeah. So that's happening, and they were at the gathering when that happened, and we were introduced to Hawkfrost and Mothwing, who were 2 rogues. Their mom was a rogue and then was taken care of in RiverClan for a while. And then the mom, Sasha, decided that she didn't actually like clan life, so she left, but her kids wanted to stay. So Hawkfrost and Mothwing are here to stay. Mothwing is a medicine cat in training, and everybody's really suspicious about her because, like, she's a rogue, and how can she believe in Star Clan if she's a rogue, you know? But we don't really know the details about that. You remember that name, Hawkfrost? Yeah, Hawkfrost, that guy. So that's where we're at. They just finished leaving the gathering, and he told Tawny Pelt, I'll see you at the new moon. And so that's what's going on. Hawkfrost and Sasha, yeah. I mentioned them because they are plot relevant at some point. I don't actually know when. So, we're on chapter 4. Let's hope that I can read okay today. So, the gears are turning. Wait, I'm gonna take off my Snuggie actually. It's a little too hot. It's a little too hot in here. A little too hot. There is a manga series called Tiger Star and Sasha. I think that's one of the only ways you can find out the intimate details about Sasha. Otherwise, I don't know if she even shows up. She's just like word of mouth, maybe. I can't remember. Okay. Chapter 4. Brambleclaw emerged from the warrior's den and glanced around the clearing. Another quarter moon had passed, and still there was no rain. Over all the forest, the air was hot and heavy. The streams near the camp had dried up, so the clan had to travel to the stream that flowed past 4 trees when they needed more water. Luckily, it ran deep through the rocky soil and flowed even the driest green leaf. Ever since the gathering, Brambleclaw's sleep had been disturbed, and when he woke up each morning, he struggled with the foreboding that something terrible had happened to camp during the night. But everything seemed as peaceful as it had been the day before. This morning, Whitepaw and Shrewpaw were practicing their fighting moves outside the apprentice den. Mousefur emerged from the gorse tunnel with the squirrel clamped in her jaws, followed by her apprentice, Spiderpaw, and Rainwhisker, who also carried fresh kill. Firestar and Greystripe were talking together at the base of the high rock, with Squirrelpaw and Dustpelt listening close by. Firestar beckoned Brambleclaw over with his tail. "Are you up for an extra patrol?" he asked. "I want to check the border with ShadowClan, in case they get the idea of coming across here to find water." "But Blackstar said that his clan has all the water they need," Brambleclaw reminded him. Firestar's ear twitched. "True, but we don't necessarily believe what clan leaders say at the gathering. Besides, I've never trusted Blackstar. If he thinks we have richer prey in our territory, he'll send warriors in to help themselves, for sure." Greystripe growled in agreement. "ShadowClan have been quiet for too many moons. If you ask me, it's about time they started to make trouble." "I just thought—" Brambleclaw stopped, embarrassed to be seen objecting to his leader's order, and amazed that he could see a possibility Firestar didn't seem to have considered. "Go on," Firestar prompted. Brambleclaw took a deep breath. He couldn't get out of this now, in spite of the green glare that Squirrelpaw was giving him for daring to disagree with her father. "I just think that if there is trouble, it's more likely to come from WindClan," he ventured. "If their territory is as dry as Tallstar said, then they're bound to be short of prey." "WindClan?" Squirrelpaw burst out. "Brambleclaw, are you completely mouse-brained? RiverClan gave WindClan permission to drink at the river, so if they steal prey from anywhere, they'll steal it from RiverClan." "And that strip of RiverClan territory is really narrow between river and our border," Brambleclaw retorted. "If WindClan do hunt, the prey could easily cross into our territory." "You think you're so clever." Squirrelpaw sprang to her paws, her fur bristling. "Firestar ordered you to check the ShadowClan border, so you should go do what you're told." "Of course. You've never disobeyed a warrior, have you?" Dustpelt put in dryly. Squirrelpaw ignored her mentor. "ShadowClan have always caused trouble," she persisted, "but we're friends with WindClan now." Brambleclaw found himself getting angrier and angrier. Of course he didn't want to question Firestar's authority. Firestar was the hero who had saved the forest from the terrible ambitions of Tigerstar and the rogue cats who followed him. There would never be another cat like him. Yet Brambleclaw really believed that ThunderClan should take a possible threat from WindClan seriously. He would have liked to discuss it properly with Firestar, but that was impossible when Squirrelpaw insisted on arguing with everything he said. "You're the one who thinks she knows it all," he spat, taking a step towards her. "Will you just listen for one moment?" He ducked to avoid her paw as she lashed at him, claws unsheathed, and his last scrap of self-control deserted him. Falling into a crouch, he got ready to spring at her, his tail twitching back and forth. If Squirrelpaw wanted a fight, she could have one. But before either of the young cats could attack, Firestar pushed in between them. "That's enough!" he snarled. Brambleclaw froze in dismay. Straightening up, he gave his chest an anxious lick and murmured, "Sorry, Firestar." Squirrelpaw stayed silent, giving him a mutinous glare, until Dustpelt prompted her. "Well?" "Sorry," Squirrelpaw muttered, and instantly spoiled her apology by adding, "But he's still a mousebrain." "Actually, I think he's got a point, don't you?" Dustpelt meowed to Firestar. "I agree that ShadowClan have always been trouble and always will be, but if WindClan happened to spot a juicy vole or squirrel on our side of the border, don't you think they might be tempted?" "You could be right," Firestar conceded. "In that case, Brambleclaw, you'd better take a patrol up to RiverClan border as far as 4 trees. Dustpelt, you and Squirrelpaw can go as well. His eyes narrowed as he glanced from his daughter to Brambleclaw, then back again. And you will get along with each other, or I'll want to know why. Yes, Firestar, Brambleclaw replied, relieved that he had gotten off so lightly for nearly flattening Squirrelpaw. That's 2 patrols, then, Graystripe mewed cheerfully. I'll find some more cats to go up with me to ShadowClan side. He jumped to his paws and vanished into the warrior's den. Firestar nodded to Dustpelt, giving him authority over the patrol, and padded away to his den on the other side of the high rock. Right, let's go, meowed Dustpelt. He set off towards the gorse tunnel, only to glance back at Squirrelpaw, who had not moved. What's the matter now? It's not fair, Squirrelpaw muttered. I don't want to patrol with him. Brambleclaw rolled his eyes, but had the sense not to start their quarrel again. Then you shouldn't have said what you did, Dustpelt told his apprentice. Pacing back, he stood over her and gazed sternly down at her. Squirrelpaw, sooner or later you must learn that there are times to speak and times to be silent. Squirrelpaw heaved a noisy sigh. But it seems like it's always time to be silent. There, you've got the idea. Dustpelt flicked her ear with his tail, and Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of the affection there was between mentor and apprentice. Come on, both of you. We'll renew the scent markings, and with any luck we'll come across a mouse or 2 while we're out. Squirrelpaw recovered her good temper when she caught a plump foal at Sunning Rocks. Brambleclaw had to admit that she was an efficient hunter, patiently stalking her prey and pouncing on it to dispatch it with one blow of her paw. Dustpelt, I'm starving, she announced. May I eat it? Her mentor hesitated for a heartbeat and then nodded. The clan has been fed, he replied, and this isn't a hunting patrol. Squirrelpaw shot a glance at Brambleclaw as she crouched over the fresh kill and took an eager bite. Delicious, she mumbled, and then she stopped and nudged the remains of the vole towards Brambleclaw. Want some? Brambleclaw was on the brink of telling her that he could catch his own prey until he realized that Squirrelpaw was trying to make friends again. Thanks, he meowed, taking a bite. Dustpelt leaped down from the top of the rock. When you've quite finished stuffing yourselves, he began. Squirrelpaw, what can you scent? Apart from vole. You mean? Squirrelpaw mewed, cheekily. Springing to her paws, she tasted the air. The breeze was blowing from RiverClan territory, and she soon replied, RiverClan cats, strong and fresh. Good. Dustpelt looked pleased. A patrol just went by, nothing to do with us. No sign of WindClan, Brambleclaw commented to himself as they moved off again. Not that this meant his suspicions were wrong. He did not expect to see any of their cats this far downstream. The whole length of ThunderClan territory away from their own border. As they drew closer to 4 trees and past the 2-leg bridge, all 3 cats paused to scan the slope. The breeze had dropped and the air was still and heavy with the scent of cats. WindClan and RiverClan, Brambleclaw mewed quietly to Dustpelt. The older warrior nodded. But they're allowed to go down to the river, he reminded him. There's no sign that they've crossed our border. So there! Squirrelpaw couldn't resist adding. Brambleclaw shrugged, telling himself that he would rather be proved wrong. He didn't want trouble with WindClan. Dustpelt was just moving off again towards 4 trees when Brambleclaw caught another scent. WindClan again, but much stronger and fresher than before. Not daring to call out, he signaled frantically to Dustpelt with his tail, angling his ears in the direction where he thought the scent was coming from. Dustpelt crouched down in the long grass and signaled for his companions to do the same. Please, StarClan, Brambleclaw begged, don't let Squirrelpaw make a smart remark. But the apprentice remained silent, flattening herself to the ground and staring at the clumps of bracken that Brambleclaw had indicated. For a while, the only sound was the slap and murmur of the river nearby. Then there was a dry, rustling sound, and a molted brown cat peered out of the bracken before creeping out into the open, a couple tailings on the ThunderClan side of the border. Brambleclaw recognized Mudclaw, the WindClan deputy. He was followed by One Whisker and a smallish, dark gray cat Brambleclaw had never seen before. An apprentice, he guessed, carrying a vole in his jaw. Glancing back, Mudclaw murmured, Head for the border. I smell ThunderClan. I'm not surprised, Dustpelt growled, rising out of the grass. Mudclaw recoiled and drew his lips back in a snarl. At once Brambleclaw leaped up to stand beside his clanmate, and Squirrelpaw dashed up to her mentor's other side. What are you doing on our territory? Dustpelt demanded, as if I need to ask. We're not stealing prey, Mudclaw retorted. Then what's that? Squirrelpaw asked, flicking her tail towards the vole that the apprentice was carrying. It's not a ThunderClan vole, One Whisker explained. An old friend of Firestar's, he looked thoroughly embarrassed to be caught like this on ThunderClan territory. It ran across the border from RiverClan. Even if that's true, you're stealing it from RiverClan, Brambleclaw pointed out. You're allowed to drink from the river, not take prey. The gray-black apprentice dropped the vole and launched himself across the grass at Brambleclaw. Mind your own business, he spat. He barreled into Brambleclaw and knocked him over. Brambleclaw let out a surprised yowl as the apprentice's teeth closed in the loose skin around his neck. Twisting his body, he managed to score his claws down the other cat's shoulder and felt strong hind paws scrabbling at his belly. With a screech of fury, he tore his neck free and dived for his opponent's throat. As his teeth found their mark, Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of One Whisker aiming a blow with his paw. He braced himself to fight both cats at once before he realized that the WindClan warrior had batted the apprentice away and was standing over him, rage smoldering in his eyes. That's enough, Crowpaw, he snarled. Attacking a ThunderClan warrior when we're trespassing on their territory? What's next? Crowpaw shot him a furious look through narrowed eyes. He called us thieves! And he was right, wasn't he? One Whisker turned to Dustpelt, who was standing a few fox lengths away. As Brambleclaw scrambled to his feet, he saw that the ThunderClan warrior had thrust himself in front of Squirrelpaw, preventing her from joining the fight. I'm sorry, Dustpelt, One Whisker went on. It is a RiverClan vole, and I know we shouldn't have taken it, but there's hardly any prey in our own territory. Our elders and kits are hungry, and... He stopped as if he thought he had already said too much. What will you do? The vole is between you and RiverClan, Dustpelt meowed coldly. I see no need to tell Firestar about this, unless it happens again. Just get out of our territory and stay out. Mudclaw nudged Crowpaw to his paws. The WindClan deputy still looked furious at being found out, and Brambleclaw noticed that he did not add his apology to One Whiskers. Without a word, he headed for the border, with One Whisker close behind him. Crowpaw hesitated. Then, with a defiant glance, he snatched up the vole and streaked after his clanmates. I suppose we'll never hear the last of that, Squirrelpaw spat at Brambleclaw. Her eyes glittered with annoyance. Happy now you've been proven right? I didn't say a word, Brambleclaw protested. Squirrelpaw didn't reply, but stalked off with her tail in the air. Brambleclaw looked at her with a sigh. He would much rather the incident had never happened. His fur pricked with the sense of impending disaster. Clans were becoming so thirsty and desperate that even decent cats like One Whisker were prepared to trespass, steal, and lie. Heat lay over the forest with the weight of a huge, choking pelt, and it seemed as if every living thing was waiting for a storm to break. Could this be trouble that StarClan foretold? The next few days and nights, as the moon waned to the merest scratch in the sky. The next few days and nights, as the moon waned to the merest scratch in the sky, seemed never-ending to Brambleclaw. Okay. When he thought of what might happen at Four Trees when he went to meet Tawny Pelt, he felt every hair on his pelt rise with dread. Would the other clan cats come? And what exactly would be revealed at midnight? Perhaps StarClan themselves would come down and speak to them. At last the night came when there was almost no moon at all, but the stars of Silverpelt glittered so brightly that Brambleclaw had no difficulty in finding his way through the gorse tunnel and up the ravine. Leaves rustled as he brushed through the undergrowth from one patch of shade to the next, trying to tread lightly as if he were creeping up on a mouse. Other ThunderClan warriors might be out late, and Brambleclaw did not want to be seen, nor to explain where he was going. He had not told any cat about his dream, and he knew that Firestar would not approve of his going to meet with other cats at Four Trees when he was not protected by the full moon truce. The air was cool now, but there was a dusty scent to the air, rising from the parched earth. Plants were drooping or lay withered on the ground. The whole forest cried out for rain like a starving kit, and if it did not come soon, it would not be only WindClan who were short of water. When Brambleclaw reached Four Trees, the clearing was empty. The sides of the great rock glimmered with starshine, and the leaves of the 4 oak trees rustled gently overhead. Brambleclaw shivered. He was so used to seeing the hollow full of cats that it seemed more daunting than before, so much bigger, with so many unexplained shadows. He could almost imagine that he had stepped into the mystical world of Starkland. He padded across the clearing and sat at the base of the great rock. His ears were pricked to catch the smallest sound, and every nerve from ears to tail tip was stretched with anticipation. Who would the other cats be? As moments slipped by, his excitement was replaced with anxiety. Not even Tawny Pelt had arrived. Perhaps she had changed her mind, or perhaps this was the wrong meeting place after all. At last he saw movement in the bushes about halfway up the side of the hollow. Brambleclaw tensed. The breeze was blowing away from him, so he could not pick up the scent. From the direction it was coming, it could have been either a River Clan or Wind Clan cat. He followed the movement with his eyes as far as a clump of bracken at the bottom of the slope. The fronds waved wildly, and a cat stepped into the clearing. Brambleclaw stared, frozen for a heartbeat, then sprang to his paws, his neck fur bristling in fury. Squirrel Paw! Chapter 5. Hi, Shichichu! Squirrel Paw and Crowpaw are like insane. Guys, I'm eating a Gamer O. Henry bar right now. It's called O. Henry Level Up. This is the first time I've ever tried it, so hold on, I'll taste test it. Interesting. I like chocolate bars with pretzels in them. It gives a good crunch. How am I? I'm pretty okay today. I have 2 streams today. So Sichi, you should, if you stick around even later, then you can watch another stream. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, let me open this. Ready? Ready, guys? Love me a Pepsi. Okay. I hope you're good as well, Shichi. Chapter 5. Brambleclaw stalked stiff-legged across the clearing until he stood face to face with the apprentice. Just what do you think you're doing here? He hissed. Hi, Brambleclaw. Squirrelpaw tried to sound calm, but her sparkling eyes betrayed her excitement. I couldn't sleep, and I saw you leaving, so I've been following you. She gave a little purr of delight. I was good, wasn't I? You never knew I was there, all the way through the forest. That was true. Though Brambleclaw would have died rather than tell her he was impressed. Instead, he let out a low growl. For two mouse tails, he felt like springing at the ginger she-cat to claw the smug expression off her face. Why can't you mind your own business? The she-cat narrowed her eyes. It's any cat's business when a clan warrior sneaks out of camp at night. I wasn't sneaking, Brambleclaw protested guiltily. Oh, no? Squirrelpaw sounded scornful. You leave camp, come straight up here to 4 Trees, and sit waiting for ages, looking like you expect every warrior in the forest to jump out at you? Don't tell me you're just enjoying the beautiful night. I don't have to tell you anything. Brambleclaw heard his voice grow desperate. All he wanted was to get rid of this annoying apprentice before any cats from the clan arrive. Cats from other clans arrive. She hadn't mentioned the dream, which meant she couldn't have had it as well. So she had no right to be here and find out about the next part of the prophecy, if that's what was really going to happen. This has got nothing to do with you, Squirrelpaw. Why don't you just go home? No! Squirrelpaw sat down and curled her tail around her front paws, glaring at Brambleclaw with wide green eyes. I'm not leaving until I find out what's going on. Brambleclaw let out a snarl of sheer frustration, only to jump up when a voice growled behind him. What's she doing here? It was Tawny Pelt. Slipping out from behind the great rock, she pattered across the clearing and narrowed her eyes at Squirrelpaw. Thought we weren't going to tell any other cats. Brambleclaw felt his fur prickle. I didn't tell her. She saw me leaving and followed me. And it's a good thing I did. Squirrelpaw stood up and met Tawny Paw's Pelt's gaze, her ears flat against her head. You creep out at night and come here to meet a Shadow Clan warrior? What's Firestar gonna think about that when I tell him? Brambleclaw's belly lurched uncomfortably. Perhaps he ought to have told Firestar about the dream right from the start, but it was too late now. Listen, he meowed urgently. Tawny Pelt isn't just a Shadow Clan warrior. She's my sister. You know that as well as any cat. We're not plotting anything. Then why all the secrecy? Squirrelpaw demanded. Brambleclaw was searching for a reply when Tawny Pelt interrupted him, flicking her tail towards the slope. Look. Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of something gray moving among the bushes. For a heartbeat later, Feathertail and Stormfur stepped into the clearing. They glanced around wearily, but as soon as Feathertail spotted the other cat, she raced across the clearing towards them. I was right, she exclaimed, skidding to a halt in front of Brambleclaw and the other two she-cats. Her eyes widened, beginning to look puzzled and a little daunted. Did you have the dream as well? Is it the four of us? Tawny Pelt and I have had it, Brambleclaw replied. At the same moment, Squirrelpaw asked, What dream? The dream from StarClan, telling us that there's trouble ahead. Feathertail sounded more uncertain still, and her gaze flicked tensely from cat to cat. Did you both have the dream? Brambleclaw asked, glancing at Stormfur as the RiverClan warrior caught up with his sister. Stormfur shook his head. No, only I need a voice for Stormfur. No, only Feathertail. I'll go with that for now. It scared me so much, Feathertail confessed. I couldn't eat or sleep for thinking about it. Stormfur knew something was wrong, and he pestered me so much that I told him what I dreamed of. We decided that I should come to Four Trees tonight at the new moon, and Stormfur wouldn't let me come by myself. She gave her brother's ear a friendly lick. He didn't want me to be in danger. But I'm not, am I? I mean, we all know each other. Don't be so quick to trust every cat, Stormfur growled. I don't like meeting cats from other clans in secret like this. It's not what the warrior code tells us. But we each had a message from StarClan telling us to come, Tawny Pelt pointed out. Bluestar visited Brambleclaw, and Nightstar came to me. And I saw Oakheart, Feathertail meowed. He said great trouble was coming to the forest, and I would have to meet with 3 other cats at the new moon to hear what midnight tells us. I was told that too, Tawny Pelt confirmed. With a twitch of her ears at Stormfur, she added, I don't like it much either, but we should wait and see what StarClan want. At midnight, I suppose, Stormfur meowed, glancing up at the stars. It must be nearly that now. Brambleclaw's heart sank as he noticed Squirrelpaw's eyes getting wider and wider. You mean StarClan told all of you to meet here? The young she-cat burst out. And they said there's trouble coming? What kind of trouble? We don't know, Feathertail replied. At least, Oakheart didn't tell me. She trailed off, looking flustered, but Brambleclaw and Tawny Pelt shook their heads to show that their dream cats hadn't shared this with them either. Stormfur's eyes narrowed. Your clanmate hasn't had the dream, he mewed to Brambleclaw. What's she doing here? You didn't have it either. Squirrelpaw wasn't afraid to stand up to the RiverClan warrior. I've as just much right to be here as you. Except I didn't invite you, Brambleclaw growled. Chase her off then, Tawny Pelt suggested. I'll help. I'm gonna give Tawny Pelt like a raven type voice. You know, like monotoned. Or at least try to. Squirrelpaw took a step towards the Shadow Clan warrior, her fur fluffed out and her tail bristling. Just lay one paw on me. Brambleclaw sighed. If we chase her off now, she'll go in straight to Firestar. He meowed. She's heard pretty much everything, so she might as well stay. Squirrelpaw gave him a disdainful sniff and sat down again. She drew her tongue down her paw and calmly began to wash her face. Honestly, Brambleclaw, Tawny Pelt growled, you should have been more careful, letting an apprentice track you. What's going on? A new voice came from behind them, high-pitched and aggressive. This can't be right. Deadfoot said there was only supposed to be 4 of us. Brambleclaw jumped and looked around. His eyes narrowed into a furious glare as he recognized the cat with the smoky gray fur, lean limbs, and small, neat head. You! He spat. Standing a couple of fox lengths away was the WindClan apprentice Crowpaw, who had trespassed on ThunderClan territory and stolen a vole. Yeah, me, he retorted, his fur bristling as if any moment he might spring and finish off the fight. Tawny Pelt pricked her ears. This is a WindClan cat, right? She looked Crowpaw up and down dismissively. Undersized specimen, isn't he? He's an apprentice, Brambleclaw explained, as Crowpaw drew his lip back in a snarl. His name is Crowpaw. He glanced at Squirrelpaw, willing her to keep silent about the incident with the vole. He wanted WindClan brought to justice over the prey stealing, but properly, at a gathering, not by provoking a fight here. After all, what they were doing here was already a long way outside the warrior code. Squirrelpaw twitched the tip of her tail, but to Brambleclaw's relief, she said nothing. You had the dream too? Feathertail asked. Brambleclaw saw the anxiety begin to fade from her blue eyes, as if she were drawing the courage from a growing certainty that the dreams were true. Crowpaw gave her a curt nod. I spoke with our old deputy, Deadfoot, he meowed. He told me to meet 3 other cats here at New Moon. Then that's 1 from each clan, replied Feathertail. We're all here. Now we just have to wait for midnight, Brambleclaw added. Do you know what this is all about? Crowpaw turned his back on Brambleclaw and appealed directly to Feathertail. If it were me, Squirrelpaw meowed before Feathertail could reply, I'd be a little less quick to believe these dreams. If there really was trouble on its way, do you think StarClan would come to you first, before the clan leaders or medicine cats? Then how do you explain it? Brambleclaw asked, all the more defensive because he felt exactly the same doubts that Squirrelpaw was voicing now. Why else would we all have had the same dreams? Maybe you've all been stuffing yourself with too much fresh kill? Squirrelpaw suggested. Crowpaw whipped around with an angry hiss. Who asked you anyways? He demanded. I can say what I like, Squirrelpaw shot back. I don't need your permission. You're not even a warrior. Nor are you, the gray-black cat snapped. What are you doing here anyway? You didn't have the dream. No cat wants you here. Brambleclaw opened his jaw to defend Squirrelpaw, even though he had been annoyed with her following him. It was no business of Crowpaw's to tell her what to do. Then he realized that Squirrelpaw wouldn't thank him. With her ready tongue, she was quite capable of defending herself. I don't see them falling over themselves to welcome you either, she growled. Crowpaw spat, his ears flattened and his eyes glaring fury. There's no need to get angry, Feathertail began. The small black cat ignored her. Lashing his tail from side to side, he sprang at Squirrelpaw. An instant later, Brambleclaw leaped too, barreling into him and rolling him over before his claws could score down her flank. Back off! Oh, sorry. That was Brambleclaw. Back off, he hissed, pinning Crowpaw down with a paw on his neck. He could hardly believe that the WindClan apprentice would start a fight now, when they were waiting for a message from StarClan, and linked in the prophecy through their dreams. If StarClan had really chosen them for a mysterious destiny, they would surely not fulfill it by shedding one another's blood. The light of the battle died from Crowpaw's eyes, though he still looked furious. Brambleclaw let him get up. He turned his back and started to groom his ruffled fur. Thanks for nothing. Brambleclaw was hardly surprised to see Squirrelpaw was glaring at him with just as much hostility as Crowpaw. I can fight my own battles. Brambleclaw let out a hiss of exasperation. You can't start fighting here. There are more important things to think about. And if these dreams are true, then StarClan wants the clans to work together. Oh, I forgot to turn off French mode! I can't do French mode now, Chi-Chi-Chu! I'll refund you those. Where was I? He glanced around the clearing, half hoping that a cat from StarClan would appear to tell them what they were supposed to be doing, before a fight broke out that he couldn't stop. But Silverfelt shone on the clearing, empty of any cats but themselves. He could smell nothing but the ordinary night scents of growing plants and distant prey, and hear nothing but the sigh of wind through the branches of the oak. Must be after midnight now, Tawny Pelt meowed. I don't think StarClan are coming. Feathertail turned to look all around the clearing, her blue eyes more wide with anxiety. But they have to come. Why did we all have the same dream if it wasn't true? Then why is nothing happening? Tawny Pelt challenged her. Here we are, meeting at the new moon, just as StarClan told us. We can't do any more. We were fools to come. Crowpaw gave them another unfriendly stare. The dreams meant nothing. There's no prophecy, no danger, and even if there were, the warrior code should be enough to protect the forest. He began to stalk across the clearing to the slope of WindClan's side. His last words were flung over his shoulder. I'm going back to camp. Good riddance, Squirrelpaw yowled after him. He ignored her, and a moment later had disappeared into the bushes. Tawny Pelt's right. Nothing is going to happen, Stormfur meowed. We might as well go too. Come on, Feathertail. Just a minute, mewed Brambleclaw. Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe StarClan was angry because of the fighting. We can't just pretend that nothing had happened, that none of us had those dreams. We ought to decide what we're going to do next. What can we do? Tawnypaw asked. She flicked her tail towards Squirrelpaw. Maybe she's right. Why would StarClan choose us and not our leaders? I don't know, but I think they have chosen us, Feathertail meowed gently. But somehow we haven't understood properly. Maybe they'll send us all another dream to explain. Maybe. Her brother didn't sound convinced. Let's all try to come to the next gathering, Brambleclaw suggested. There might be another sign by then. Crowpot wouldn't know to meet us there, Feathertail murmured, glancing up at the spot in the bushes where the WindClan apprentice had vanished. No loss, Stormfur remarked, but his sister's anxious look, he added, We can keep an eye open for him when he comes to the river to drink. If we see him, we'll pass the message on. All right, then it's decided, meowed Tawny Pelt. We meet at the gathering. And what do we tell our clans? Stormfur asked. It's against the warrior code to hide things from them. StarClan never said we had to keep the dream a secret, Tawny Pelt put in. I know, but... Feathertail hesitated, then went on. I just feel it's wrong to talk about it. Brambleclaw knew Stormfur and Tawny Pelt were right. He was already feeling guilty that he had said nothing about his dream to Firestar and Cinderpelt. At the same time, he shared Feathertail's instinct to keep silent. I'm not sure, he meowed. Suppose our leaders forbade us to meet again. We could end up having to choose between obeying them or obeying StarClan. Aware of uneasy glances from the others, he went on earnestly. We don't know enough to tell them. Suppose we wait until the next gathering, at least. We might have other signs by then that we can explain. Feathertail agreed at once, obviously relieved, and after a pause, Stormfur gave a small, reluctant nod. But only until the next gathering, Tawny Pelt meowed. If we haven't found any more by then, I'll have to tell Blackstar. She gave a huge stretch. Her back arched and her forepaws extended. Right, I'm off. Brambleclaw touched noses with her in farewell, breathing in her familiar scent. It must mean something that we were both chosen, brother and sister, he murmured. Maybe. Tawny Pelt's green eyes were unconvinced. The other cats aren't kin, though. Her tongue rasped once over Brambleclaw's ear in a rare gesture of affection. StarClan willing. I guess I'll see you at the gathering. Brambleclaw watched her bound across the clearing, before turning to Squirrelpaw. Come on, he meowed. I have things I want to say to you. Squirrelpaw shrugged and padded away from him, towards ThunderClan territory. Saying goodnight to Feathertail and Stormfur, Brambleclaw headed up the slope after her. When he emerged from the hollow, and a hot, clammy breeze was blowing into his face, ruffling his fur and turning back the leaves on the trees. Clouds had begun to mass above his head, cutting off the few lights of Silverpelt. The forest was silent, and the air felt heavier than ever. Brambleclaw guessed that the storm was on its way at least. As he began trotting down from the stream, Squirrelpaw paused to wait for him. Her fur was relaxed on her spine now, and her green eyes shone. That was exciting, she exclaimed. Brambleclaw, you have to let me come with you to the next meeting. Please! I've never thought I'd be part of a prophecy from StarClan. You're not part of it, Brambleclaw meowed sternly. StarClan didn't send you the dream. But I know about it, don't I? If StarClan didn't want me involved, they would have kept me away from Four Trees somehow. Squirrelpaw faced him, forcing him to help, and gazed at him with pleading eyes. I could help. I'll do everything you tell me. Brambleclaw couldn't keep back a puff of laughter. And hedgehogs might fly. No, I will. I promise. Her green eyes narrowed. "And I won't tell any cat. You can trust me on that, at least." For a few heartbeats, Brambleclaw returned her gaze. He knew that if she told Firestar what had happened, he would be in deep trouble. Her silence must be worth something. "Okay," he agreed at last. "I'll let you know if anything else happens, but only if you keep your mouth shut." Squirrelpaw's tail went straight up, and her eyes blazed with delight. "Thank you, Brambleclaw!" Brambleclaw sighed. Somehow he could sense that he would be in even deeper trouble because of the bargain he had just made. He followed Squirrelpaw into the shadows that lay thickly under the trees, feeling a shiver of fear at the thought of what might be watching them, unseen. But the forest around him was no darker and more threatening than the half-offered prophecy. If the trouble was coming to the forest was as serious as Bluestar had said, then Brambleclaw was in great danger of making a fatal mistake simply because he didn't know enough. Chapter 6. Wow, the bot could have won if it went for the health pat. I'm never redeeming Hunger Games. Nono book translated to French arc 1. That would be too hard. I don't have the French vocabulary for that anymore. I might actually go make tea in this summer. It actually got pretty cold. Ooh. Oh man, I don't like Squirrelpaw. Squirrelpaw is something else. When I first read the series, I did not like Squirrelpaw either. But I'm coming here with a more open mind. More distance, at least. So far, no cat has died this stream. That's a good sign. She'll grow. She'll grow as a cat one day. She's very... I think because she's Firestar's kitten, she thinks she's got, like... she's all that. She actually reminds me a lot of Cloudtail. Like, maybe Cloudtail kind of, like, helped raise her, or she looked up to Cloudtail in some sort of way. Because Cloudtail is pretty feisty. Cloudtail's niece. Or is it like... Is it a niece or is it a cousin? Aren't they're cousins, right? Cause he's his Firestar's sister's kit. So they're like one tier down, both together. Cloudtail is Firestar's nephew. Family trees. Makes me think of, what was that alligator game I was playing? See You Later, Alligator? I don't remember. But that game was really fun. I really liked that game. All right. Chapter 6. There's like, in this background music that you guys can barely hear, there's like a fly that buzzes past the mic every now and then. And it's so... It sounds like it's like in the room with me. Chapter 6. All night, Leafpaw's sleep had been disturbed by strange, vivid dreams. At first, she thought she was following a scent trail towards 4 trees, running through the forest along the invisible path. Then the dream changed, and she felt the fur on her neck and shoulders rise as she confronted an enemy, with battle only a heartbeat away. The threat of danger faded, but now she grew colder and colder, until she jerked awake to find the clumps of ferns where she slept heavy with raindrops, and rain drumming softly on the forest all around her. Scrambling to her paws, she dashed across the clearing, fern-enclosed... She dashed across the small, fern-enclosed clearing and took shelter just inside Cinderpelt's den. The medicine cat was sleeping soundly in her mossy nest beside the back wall and did not move when Leafpaw came in, shaking water from her pelt. The young apprentice blinked and yawned as she gazed out into the clearing. Above her, she could just make out the black outlines of trees against the sky that was growing gray with the first light of dawn. Part of her rejoiced that the long, dry spell was coming to an end with this downpour that the forest needed so badly. The rest of her could not help feeling troubled about what her dreams might mean. Was StarClan sending her a sign, or had she somehow picked on thoughts of Squirrelpaw? This would not be the first time she had known what her sister was doing without being told. Leafpaw let out a long sigh. Little as she liked the idea, she was almost convinced that Squirrelpaw must have slipped out of camp to hunt by night, sending Leafpaw the images of running through the forest. There was no way she had been on an official patrol. What sort of trouble would Squirrelpaw be in if Firestar found out? As Leafpaw crouched there, she realized that the rain was easing off and the clouds were turning pale yellow and thinning out. With a last glance at the sleeping Cinderpelt, she slipped outside again, ignoring the water that soaked her fur as she pushed through the fern tunnel and into the main clearing. Perhaps if she could find Squirrelpaw quickly, she could help her hide whatever she had been up to. Where's my music? There we go. But when she reached the clearing, there was no sign of her sister. The other three apprentices had emerged from their den and were lapping eagerly at a shallow puddle that had pooled at the sun-scorched earth. Ferncloud's three kits crept out of the nursery, their eyes huge as they examined this strange new water that had fallen from the sky. Ferncloud looked on with pride in her eyes as they dabbed at it, squealing with excitement and shining drops spun away from their paws. Leafpaw watched them for a moment, then whirled around when she saw movement at the mouth of the gorse tunnel. An early hunting patrol, she wondered, caught out by the rain? Or could it be Squirrelpaw, returning after her illicit outing? Shijo! Then she realized that the newcomer did not have ThunderClan scent. She drew breath to yowl a warning to the clan before she recognized the sleek black pelt. It was Ravenpaw, who had once been a ThunderClan apprentice, but now lived as a loner in a two-leg barn on the edge of WindClan territory. Leafpaw had met him once before, on her journey to the High Stones with Cinderpelt. Living so close to Two Legs, Ravenpaw hunted mainly by night and was perfectly comfortable with traveling through the forest in pitch dark. He might be just the cat to tell Leafpaw if there had been a ThunderClan apprentice hunting in the forest before dawn. The visitor crossed the clearing slowly, skirting the deepest puddles and delicately picking up his paws to shake off the water. Hi. It's Leafpaw, isn't it? Ravenpaw meowed, prickling his ears towards her. That was some storm. I'd have been soaked through if I hadn't managed to shelter in a hollow tree. Still, the forest needs rain. Leafpaw returned his greeting politely. She was trying to find out the right words to ask him if he had seen Squirrelpaw on his way to camp when a cheerful yowl interrupted her. Hey, Ravenpaw! Whitepaw and Shrewpaw were bounding across the clearing towards them. Ferncloud's kits abandoned their raindrop games and scuttled after them. The biggest of the three kits skidded to a halt in front of Ravenpaw and took an enormous sniff. No cat! She growled. No scent! The loner dipped his head in greeting. The tip of his tail flicked back and forth in amusement. Holly Kit, this is Ravenpaw, Shrewpaw told her. He lives on a two-leg farm and feasts on more mice than you three have seen in your life. Holly Kit's amber eyes grew huge. Every day? That's right, Whitepaw put in solemn, every day. I want to go there, the little gray kit mewed. Can we? Now? When you're bigger, Birch Kit, Ferncloud promised, coming up to join them. Welcome, Ravenpaw. It's good to... Holly Kit! Large Kit! Stop that at once! The two brown tabby kits had pounced on Ravenpaw's twitching tail and were batting it with outstretched paws. Ravenpaw winced. Don't do that, little kits, he scolded gently. It's my tail, not a mouse. Ravenpaw, I'm so sorry, meowed Ferncloud. They haven't learned how to behave properly yet. Don't worry, Ferncloud, Ravenpaw replied. Though drew his tail closely against his side, out of harm's way. Kits will be kits. These particular kits have been out for long enough. Cloud swished her tail around to gather the 3 kits together and herded them back towards the nursery. Say goodbye to Ravenpaw now. The kits mewed goodbye and scampered off. Can we do anything for you, Ravenpaw? Whitepaw asked politely. Would you like some fresh kill? No, I ate before I left home, thank you, the black cat replied. I've come to see Firestar. Is he around? I think he's in his den, Shrewpaw told him. Shall I take you there? No, I will, meowed Leafpaw. She was getting increasingly anxious to ask the loner if he had seen Squirrelpaw on his journey through the forest. Just then, Shrewpaw's mentor, emerged from the warrior's den. Leafpaw twitched his ears towards him. Is your mentor looking for you? She asked Shrewpaw. As she spoke, Thornclaw called to Shrewpaw, and the apprentice dashed off with a quick word of farewell. Whitepaw also meowed her goodbye and went over to join Breakinfur at the fresh kill pile. Suddenly, the thorny branches that formed the gorse tunnel trembled, and relief flooded over Leafpaw as she watched Squirrelpaw emerge, dragging a rabbit behind her through the mud. Leafpaw had taken a couple of paces towards her before she remembered the clown's visitor and turned awkwardly back to him. That's your sister, isn't it? Ravenpaw meowed. Go and talk to her if you want. I can find my own way to Firestar's den. I only speak English, I'm sorry. Released, Leafpaw bounded towards her sister, who was headed for the fern tunnel. Catching sight of her, Squirrelpaw stopped to wait, dropping the rabbit at her paws. Its fur was plastered with mud from being dragged across the clearing, and rain had flattened Squirrelpaw's own pelt against her flanks, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. Not bad, is it? She announced, nodding towards her prey. It's for you and Cinderpelt. Where have you been? Leafpaw hissed. I've been worried sick about you. Why? Squirrelpaw's green eyes looked injured. Where do you think I had gone? I only slipped out to hunt when the rain started to ease off, and you might at least say thank you. Snatching up the rabbit, she plunged into the ferns that led to the medicine cat's clearing without waiting for Leafpaw to respond. Leafpaw followed more slowly. Thank you for the follow. Not sure whether to be relieved or furious. She had the uneasy feeling that Squirrelpaw was lying to her for the first time ever. If she had really picked up her sister's thoughts in a dream, then Squirrelpaw had done a lot more than just slip out of the camp for a quick chase of a rabbit. When she emerged into the clearing, she saw that Squirrelpaw had already dumped the rabbit at the mouth of Cinderpelt's den. Her sister gave it an admiring sniff and meowed. You might as well at least say I did well to catch it. She still sounded indignant, but she didn't meet Leafpaw's gaze when she spoke. You did. You did, Leafpaw admitted. It's huge, especially as you had such a disturbed night, she added more sharply. Squirrelpaw froze. Only her green eyes moved, flicking up and down the rest of her sister's face. Who says I did? I know you did. You were awake nearly all night. What was the matter? It was more than a short hunt, I know that. Squirrelpaw dropped her eyes to the ground. Oh, I ate a frog late in the evening, she muttered. It must have disagreed with me, that's all. Leafpaw unsheathed her claws and dug them into the rain-softened earth. Inwardly, she was fighting to stay calm. She knew that Squirrelpaw was lying to her, and part of her wanted to start wailing like a kit. You're my sister! You should trust me! Oh. I can't get the right tone I had for Leafpaw last time. Because it's not... I want it to be different than Feathertails, which is more light, but... Oh, a frog, she mewed. You should have come to me for some herbs to chew. Yeah, well... Squirrelpaw scraped the earth with one white paw. Leafpaw could see her discomfort in her flattened ears and the guilty look she shot at her, but didn't feel the least bit sorry. Why was Squirrelpaw lying? I'm fine now, Squirrelpaw insisted. It wasn't anything to make a fuss about. She glanced around in relief as Cinderpelt appeared from the mouth of her den. Her smoky gray fur was ruffled, and she carried a leaf-wrapped packet in her jaws. Fresh kill, I see, she meowed, setting the packet down. Squirrelpaw, that's a splendid rabbit, thank you. Squirrel gave her shoulder a quick lick, her eyes glowing at the medicine cat's praise, but she still avoided her sister's gaze. Cinderpelt picked up the packet again and patted it unevenly across the clearing to set it down in front of Leafpaw. Many seasons ago, when she was Firestar's apprentice, she had injured her hind leg in an accident. Bye, Silver! Accident on the Thunderpath. She had been unable to finish her warrior training, but while recovering in the care of Yellowfang, the ThunderClan medicine cat, she had found a new path to follow in the service of her clan. Leafpaw, take that to Dappletail, please. Cinderpelt meowed. It's poppy seeds to help her sleep, because her teeth are aching so badly. Mind you, tell her to go easy on her. Easy on it. Yes, Cinderpelt. Leafpaw picked up the packet and hurried out of the clearing, casting one last glance at her sister as she went. There was no chance to ask Squirrelpaw any more questions, and her sister was still refusing to look at her. Leafpaw felt every hair on her pelt prickle with foreboding as she wondered what could have happened to open up this gulf between them. Water! Help! Water everywhere! Swim! Brambleclaw yowled, then choked in a sharp, salty wave filled his mouth, dragging his fur and pulling him under. His paws worked frantically as he struggled to keep his head above the surface. He stretched up his neck, straining to find the line of reeds he expected to mark the opposite bank, but all he could see were endless, heaving blue-green waves. On the horizon, he caught a glimpse of the sinking sun into the waves in a pool of flame, its dying rays tracing a path of blood that stretched towards them. Then his head went under, and the cold, salt water flooded into his mouth again. I'm drowning, he wailed silently as he fought for his life. StarClan, help me! His head broke to the surface, and a strong current spun him around, with his back legs dangling helplessly beneath him. Choking and gasping for air, he found himself gazing up at a sheer wall of smooth, sand-colored rock. Had he been swept into the gorge? No, these cliffs were higher still. At their base, the waves sucked at a dark hole, edged by jagged rocks that made it look like a gaping mouth with teeth. Brambleclaw's terror increased as he realized that the swirling water was carrying him straight towards the stony jaws. No! No! He yowled. Help me! He kicked and thrashed in a panic, but he was growing weaker as his sodden fur was dragging him down. The waves drove him onward, crashing against the rocks. Now the black mouth loomed over him, spitting salty foam, as if it were about to swallow him alive. Then his eyes flew open, and there were leaves above him, not sheer cliffs, and he was supported by moss-cushioned sand rather than sinking into bottomless water. Brambleclaw lay shuddering with relief as he realized that he was lying in his nest in the warrior's den. The thunder of the waves became the rushing of wind in the branches above his head. Water had dripped through the thick canopy of leaves and formed an icy trickle in his neck fur, and he knew the rain must have come at last. His throat was as sore as if he had swallowed a river full of salty water, and his mouth was parched. Brambleclaw sat up restlessly. Dustpelt lifted his head and muttered, What's wrong with you? Couldn't you keep quiet and let the rest of us sleep? Sorry, Brambleclaw meowed. He began grooming the moss out of his fur, his heart still thudding as if he were going to break out of his chest. He felt as limp and exhausted as if he really had been struggling to save himself in that strange salt water. Gradually, the strengthening of the light in the den told him that the sun had come out. He heaved himself to his paws and poked his head up between the branches, blinking as he looked for a puddle where he could quench his thirst. A fresh breeze was driving away the clouds. In front of Brambleclaw, the clearing was filled with the pale yellow light from the rising sun, reflecting from puddles on the ground and water droplets hanging on every branch and frond of fern. The whole forest seemed to be drinking in the life-giving water, the trees lifting their dusty leaves to catch every single drop. Thanks, StarClan! Mousefur meowed as she pushed her way out of the den beside Brambleclaw. I'd almost forgotten what rain smelt like. Brambleclaw staggered across the clearing to a puddle near the base of the high rock, where he lowered his head and laughed, trying to wash the taste of salt from his mouth. He had never imagined the water could taste like that. Like the other cats, he would sometimes lick salt from the surface of rocks, or taste it in the blood of prey. But the memory of drinking that salt-laden water made every hair on his pelt prickle. A final gust of rain ruffled the pools of water and rinsed the sticky feeling of salt from Brambleclaw's fur. Raising his head to enjoy the sharp, cold shower, he spotted Firestar emerging from his den under the high rock and turning to speak to the cat who followed him out. Brambleclaw was surprised to see that the second cat was Ravenpaw. Two Legs are always doing strange things, Firestar was saying as they came into earshot. I'm grateful that you came all this way to tell us, but I really don't think it's got anything to do with us. Ravenpaw looked uneasy. I know that Two Legs often act without reason, but I've never seen anything like this. There are far more of them on the Thunderpath than before, walking along the edge with shiny, bright-colored pelts, and they have new kinds of monsters, huge ones. Yes, Ravenpaw, you said. Firestar sounded faintly impatient with his old friend, but we haven't seen any of them in our territory. I'll tell you what. He paused to press his muzzle affectionately against Ravenpaw's side. I'll tell the patrols to keep their eyes open for anything unusual. Ravenpaw twitched the fur on his shoulders. I suppose that's all you can do. And you could drop in on WindClan on your way home, Firestar suggested. They're closer than we are to that part of the Thunderpath, so Tallstar ought to know if something strange is going on. Yes, Firestar, I'll do that. Wait a moment, I've got a better idea, meowed Firestar. Why don't I come with you part of the way? I could take a patrol up to 4 trees at the same time. Stay there, and I'll fetch Greystripe and Sandstorm. He bounded off into the warrior's den without waiting for Ravenpaw to reply. When the clan leader had gone, Ravenpaw caught sight of Brambleclaw and gave him a friendly nod. Hi, how are you? He meowed. How's the prey running? Fine. Everything's fine. Brambleclaw was aware that his voice still sounded shaky, and he wasn't surprised when Ravenpaw peered at him more closely. You look like you've been chased all night by a horde of badgers, the loner meowed. Is anything the matter? Nothing really. Brambleclaw scuffled his paws on the ground. I had a dream, that's all. Ravenpaw's eyes were sympathetic. Do you want to tell me about it? It was nonsense, really, Brambleclaw murmured. His ears filled again with the sound of the saltwater waves crashing and bellowing against the cliffs, and he suddenly found himself spilling everything to Ravenpaw. The vast expanse of water, the salt taste of it when it filled his mouth, the gaping black jaws in the cliff that had threatened to swallow him, and, most alarmingly of all, the sun sinking in a pool of blood-red fire. That place can't be real, he finished. I don't know why it's gotten to me like this. It's not like I don't have anything else to think about, he added grimly. To his surprise, Ravenpaw did not leap and agree that Brambleclaw had a meaningless dream about a place that existed in his troubled imagination. Instead, the black cat was silent for a long time, his eyes clouded with thought. Saltwater cliffs, he murmured. Then, the place is real, he meowed. I've heard of it before, though I've never seen it for myself. Real? What do you mean? Brambleclaw stared at him, his fur standing on end. Rogue cats come to the Two-Leg farm sometimes, when they traveled far and are in need of shelter for the night, and a spare mouse or two, Ravenpaw explained. Cats who live towards the place where the sun sets. They have told Barley and me about a place where there is more water than you could possibly imagine, like a river that is only one bank, and it's too salty to drink. Every night it swallows the sun in a flash of fire, bleeding into the waves without a sound. Brambleclaw shivered. The loner's words brought his dream back far too vividly for comfort. Yes, I saw the place where the sun drowns, and the dark cave with teeth. I can't tell you about that, Ravenpaw admitted, but this dream must have been sent to you for a reason. Be patient, and perhaps StarClan will show you more. StarClan? Brambleclaw felt his belly flip. How could you dream of a place you never seen unless StarClan willed it? Ravenpaw pointed out. Brambleclaw had to admit that there was logic in what the loner said. Say it was StarClan who sent me a dream about a sun-drowned place, he began. Do you think they could possibly be telling me to go there? Ravenpaw's eyes widened in surprise. Go there? Why? Well, I had another dream first, Brambleclaw explained uncomfortably. I thought I met Blue Star in the forest. She told me about a new prophecy. The great trouble is coming to the forest. She said that I'd been chosen. He said nothing about the cats from the other clans. Even though Ravenpaw lived outside the warrior code, he would not approve of meeting with other cats in secret, as Brambleclaw had done. Why me? He finished in confusion. Why not Firestar? He would know what to do. The loner gazed at him solemnly for a long moment. There was once a prophecy about Firestar, too, he meowed at last. StarClan promised that fire would save the clan, though they didn't say exactly how. Firestar never understood it, never knew the prophecy was about him, until Bluestar told him just before she died. Brambleclaw met his gaze and could find nothing to say. He had heard about the fire prophecy. Every clan cat had, as part of the stories told about their leader, but it had never occurred to him that Firestar might once have felt as confused as he felt now. Thank you, Corey! There was a time when Firestar was a young warrior just like... There was a time when Firestar was a young warrior just like you, Ravenpaw went on, as if he could read Brambleclaw's thoughts. He often wondered if he was making the right decisions. Oh yes, he's a hero now. He saved the forest, but to begin with, his task looked as impossible as yours. Whatever it might be, his prophecy has been fulfilled, he added. Maybe it's your time now. Remember that StarClan don't like to make things obvious. They send us prophecies, but they never tell us exactly what we should do. They just expect us to show courage and loyalty to achieve what has to be done, just as Firestar did. Brambleclaw was puzzled by the reverence with which Ravenpaw, a loner who chose not to dwell in a clan, spoke of StarClan. Disconcertingly, the black cat murmured, Just because I live outside the forest doesn't mean that I reject the warrior code. It is a noble path for cats to walk, and I would defend it as willingly as any warrior. He gave Brambleclaw a friendly nod as Firestar returned with Greystripe and Sandstorm. Brambleclaw murmured farewell and watched the four cats pad across the clearing and vanish to the gorse tunnel. She too! No! I'm turning it off. Video stream manager. French mode. Reject. No! I was so sure that I had pressed that. Hunger Games. Oh, I must have missed it. Oh well. You get your points back, don't worry. Don't worry. If the dreams were true, both of them, then an enormous task lay in front of him. He had no idea how he could find the salt water, except that he would need to follow the setting sun, and he did not know how far away it was, farther than any forest cat had ever gone before, that was for sure. Ravenpaw's words echoed in his ears. Maybe it's your time now. Had the other three cats dreamed of the sun-drowned place too? What if he's right? Brambleclaw asked himself, what should I do next? You can have Frenchie. If you stay, and then when I stream again, you could redeem the French thing while I'm in a collab, and then Confused Done, my collab buddy. Chapter 7. Hi, done. Yay! I'm happy. Chapter 7. Brambleclaw emerged wearily from the undergrowth at the edge of the trees above the riverbank, tasting the air for scents of cats. The traces of ThunderClan were all stale, though fresher RiverClan scents drifted across from the other side of the river. Hoping that no cat from either clan would see him, Brambleclaw slipped swiftly down the bank into the water's edge. Brown water churned along his paws. More rain had fallen during the day, though the clouds were thinning now to let pale sunshine through, so that the forest steamed. The river was swollen, half submerging the stepping stones, and Brambleclaw had to brace himself before he dared leap out into the first of them. He was on his way to visit Feathertail and Stormfur. All day he had been thinking about the second dream, becoming more and more convinced that they had to travel to the Sundrown place before they could learn what StarClan had to tell them. The dream had been too real to ignore. He could still taste salt in his mouth, and he flinched as droplets splashed against his nose from the stepping stones, expecting the same sharp tang. And they ought to leave at once. His fur prickled with strange sense of urgency, warning him that there was no time to wait until the next gathering. If the other chosen cats had also had the dream, they shouldn't be hard to persuade. He still had not told Squirrelpaw about the second dream. Although he felt guilty he was not keeping his promise, he was well aware that she knew about the journey he was planning. She would want to come too. And what would Firestar think if Brambleclaw dragged his daughter off to the unknown? To the unknown? Water lapped cold around his paws as Brambleclaw landed on the first stone and crouched, ready to leap for the next. Before he pushed off, he scanned the far bank again. Although there was a friendship now between ThunderClan and RiverClan, he was not sure of his welcome if he trespassed uninvited on their territory. He would prefer to find Feathertail and Stormfur before any other cats knew he was there. He managed to reach the next stone, and the one after that, shivering as cold water splashed up onto his fur. The next stepping stone had vanished completely, with only a ripple of water flowing over it to tell him where it was. Keeping his gaze fixed on the spot, he leaped. But as he landed, his paw slipped out the edge, and he found himself splashing into the river. He let out a yowl of alarm as his head went under. Terror surged over him as he was plunged into the bottomless, blue-green waves like those of his dreams. Clawing his way upwards, he surfaced to see reeds again instead of the sand-colored cliffs, and gray-brown water running in ripples, not waves. The current was carrying him close to the opposite bank, and Brambleclaw stuck out, kicking strongly against the flow of water. To his relief, his paw scraped on Confetti. Scraped on pebbles. A heartbeat later, he managed to stand and flounder in the shallows. Panting, he held himself onto the bank and shook himself vigorously. Suddenly, fresh RiverClan scent wafted into his nostrils. He dived into a clump of bracken and peered out between the fronds. A moment later, he murmured thanks to StarClan as Feathertail and Stormfur, the two cats he wanted to see, appeared further along the riverbank. Brambleclaw plunged out of the bracken and stood shivering in front of them. He meowed. Great StarClan. Stormfur looked at him up and down. Have you been in for a swim? I fell off the stepping stones. Feathertail, can I have a word with you? Of course. Are you sure you're all right? Yes, I'm fine. Feathertail, have you had another dream? The gray she-cat looked puzzled. No. Why? Have you? Yes. Settling into the grass so they could talk more comfortably, Brambleclaw told them quickly about the sun-drowned place and the cave with teeth, feeling his fur bristle with fear again. I spoke to Ravenpaw this morning. You know, the loner who lives near Highstones? He says the Sundrown place is real, and he told me that StarClan's prophecies are always vague. We need the faith and courage of warriors to understand them, and to trust what StarClan wants us to do is right. Which is what? Stormfur queried. I think we should go to the Sundrown place, Brambleclaw replied, his belly churning with tension. That's where StarClan will tell us what we need to do. Feathertail had listened in silence, her blue gaze fixed on his face. Thank you for the follow, Panda. When he stopped speaking, she nodded slowly. I think you're right. What? Stormfur sprang to his paws. Are you mad? You don't even know where this place is. Feathertail flicked him with her tail. No, but StarClan will guide us. Brambleclaw waited tensely. If Stormfur refused to agree, he might tell Leopardstar what was going on, and the clan could stop Feathertail from leaving with him. The gray warrior paced along the bank and back again, his tail fluffed up in agitation. Faith and courage. We'd certainly need those if we went to this place, he muttered. I'm still not convinced that you're right, mind you, he added wirily to Brambleclaw. But if you're not, maybe StarClan will send another sign for us to turn back. Feathertail's blue eyes glowed. Does that mean you'll come with us? Try to stop me. Her brother meowed grimly. He swung around to face Brambleclaw. I know I've not had any dreams, but an extra warrior could be useful. You're right. Brambleclaw was so relieved to have won their agreement that he did not try to argue. Thanks to both of you. So, when do we leave? I thought the day before the half moon, Brambleclaw suggested. That should give us enough time to talk to the others. Rising to his paws, he padded down to the water's edge. The sun was going down, red behind bars of dark cloud. A breeze ruffled his drying fur, and he shivered again, less from the cold and more from the thought of the path that they had to travel. Hi, Goodle! I know Tawny Pelt will come if I ask her, he meowed, but what about Crowpaw? He'd rather eat foxdun than go on a journey with us. But if all the cats Starkland have chosen don't go together, we might fail the prophecy. Crowpaw will understand. Feathertail tried to reassure him, though Brambleclaw wished he had her confidence. We'll help you persuade him, Stormfur offered. He comes to the river to drink every day about sunset. It's too late now, so why don't we meet there tomorrow and talk to him together? Okay. Brambleclaw blinked his gratitude. Somehow, the prophecy seemed to weigh less heavy when he was sharing it with his friends. Provide he comes after this rain. WindClan should have water in their own now, remember? If he doesn't come, mewed Feathertail, sounding determined, we'll just have to think of something else. More? Oh! Wait. Okay, I thought we were in a different POV that we hadn't been in before. More rain fell during the night. WindClan's moorland streams would be flowing again without a doubt, making Brambleclaw more anxious than ever that WindClan apprentice would not come into RiverClan territory to drink. He was restless all day. Cloudtail, on hunting patrol with him and Dustpelt, kept asking him if he had ants in his fur. When the fresh kill pile had been restocked, Brambleclaw managed to slip out of camp again on his own. He especially wanted to avoid Squirrelpaw, who was bound to ask him where he was going. The sun was sinking by the time he reached the border with RiverClan, in sight of the two-leg bridge. It wasn't long before he saw the two RiverClan warriors climbing the river bank and scooting across the bridge with their heads low. Stormfur beckoned with his tail, and Brambleclaw raced across the border to meet him and Feathertail at the near end of the bridge. Better hide, Stormfur meowed. We don't know how many WindClan cats will come, and you're not supposed to be here. Brambleclaw nodded. The three cats crept into the shelter of a thorn bush near the place where WindClan cats came to drink. Just below their hiding place, the river raced noisily past, its brown water flecked with foam as it poured out of the gorge. They didn't have to wait long before Brambleclaw caught a strong WindClan scent, and a group of cats appeared from the direction of 4 trees. The clan leader, Tallstar, came first, followed by One Whisker and a ginger warrior Brambleclaw didn't recognize. Other cats came after them, and Brambleclaw's heart began to race uncomfortably when he spotted Crowpaw among them with his mentor, Mudclaw. The WindClan cats padded down the slope to the riverbank and crouched at the water's edge to drink. Frustrated, Brambleclaw saw that Crowpaw stayed in the middle of the group, too far away to call him without the other cats hearing. I'll have to go and fetch him, Feathertail murmured. She slipped out from underneath the bush and headed to the river. Brambleclaw watched her greet the WindClan cats, stopping to speak briefly with Morningflower, one of the WindClan elders. She's an old one now. Their exchange was polite, though not friendly. Brambleclaw wondered how long the clan's uneasy alliance over the water would last if WindClan went on coming to drink now that the drought was over. Soon Feathertail went to crouch beside Crowpaw at the water's edge. Brambleclaw dug his claws into the ground as he watched her straighten up again, shake water from her whiskers, and set off back to the thorn bush. Crowpaw was not following her. Had the WindClan apprentice decided he wanted no more to do with the mission, or had Feathertail been unable to tell him about the meeting? Hi, Lila. What's the matter? He hissed as Feathertail crawled back into the shelter of the branches. Did you talk to him? It's okay. Feathertail pushed her muzzle into his side. He's coming. He just doesn't want WindClan to see. While she was speaking, Crowpaw backed away from the river and began to pad up the bank towards the bush. His clanmates were still drinking. A couple of lengths away, he glanced around casually and then dived for the bush before any cat could notice him go. As the leaves rustled into into place around him, he glared at Brambleclaw with hostility in his green eyes. I thought I could smell ThunderClan cats, he growled. What do you want now? Brambleclaw exchanged an apprehensive glance with Feathertail. This wasn't a good start. I've had another dream, he began, swallowing nervously. What sort of dream? Crowpaw's voice was cold. I haven't had one. Why would StarClan send you a dream and not me? Stormfur raised his hackles, and Brambleclaw bit back a sharp response. I don't know, he admitted. A grunt was Crowpaw's only reply, but he listened in silence as Brambleclaw described what he had seen. Ravenpaw, the loner who lives on the far side of your territory, visited the camp yesterday, he finished. He told me that the Sundrown place is real. I think StarClan are telling us to go there, and we should go soon, all of us, in case the rest of the prophecy comes true and the clans are in too much trouble to be saved. Crowpaw's eyes stretched wide. Can't believe I'm hearing this, he meowed. You're asking us to leave our clans and go trekking off into the unknown? StarClan knows how far. Just because you've had a dream that none of us had had? Who died and made you leader? Brambleclaw found it hard to meet his eyes. Crowpaw was only echoing his doubts. I'm not trying to be leader, he stammered. I'm just telling you what I think StarClan wants. I'm willing to go, Feathertail added, even though I haven't had another dream. Then you're both more mousebrained than he is, Crowpaw retorted. Well, I won't go. I'll be made a warrior soon. I've worked hard for it, and I'm not leaving the clan so close to the end of my training. But Crowpaw, Brambleclaw started to protest. No! The apprentice showed his teeth in a snarl. I'm not coming. What would my clan think? Maybe they'll honor you, Stormfur meowed. The gray warrior's eyes were serious. Think, Crowpaw. If trouble is really coming, worse than anything we've seen before, what will the clans think of the cats who helped them? They'll understand how much faith we had to place in StarClan, that they were leading us on a genuine mission, and they'll know how much courage it took us to do this. But you weren't chosen, Crowpaw pointed out. It doesn't matter to you one way or another. Maybe not, but I'm coming anyways. And the reason StarClan aren't giving us clear instructions is because they want us to show faith and courage, Brambleclaw added. Those are the qualities of a true warrior. Please, Crowpaw. Feathertail's eyes shone. The mission might fail without you. Remember that you were chosen, the only apprentice singled out by StarClan. They must believe that you can do this. Crowpaw hesitated, looking at her. The red light of sunset had faded, leaving them in twilight. When Brambleclaw could hear and scent the WindClan cats as they passed the bush on their way back to their own territory, Crowpaw would have to leave with them before they noticed he was missing. There was no more time to plead or reason with him. All right, Crowpaw meowed at last. I'll come. His eyes narrowed as he gazed at Brambleclaw. Just don't start telling me what to do. Dreams or no dreams, I'm not going to take orders from you. So... he only accepted because Feathertail asked him. Like, pretty please, Crowpaw, please come on the mission with us. Brambleclaw picked his way along the stone-lined tunnel under the Thunderpath, skirting the puddles that had formed there since the rain. Darkness lay all around, along the reek of ShadowClan. He had come there straight from the encounter with Crowpaw. The RiverClan warriors had offered to come with him, but Brambleclaw thought it was too risky. Alone, he would be less of a threat if ShadowClan warriors found him on their territory. Emerging on the other side of the Thunderpath, he tasted the air for fresh scents of ShadowClan warriors, but detected nothing except the damp odors of the marshy ground. His belly skimming the earth, he darted across an open space and into the shelter of some bushes. There were few tall trees in ShadowClan territory. Most of the ground was choked by brambles and nettles, separated by shallow pools of water. Brambleclaw's paws sank into the peaty earth at every step, and he shivered at his belly fur as his belly fur grew soaked. How does ShadowClan stand it? He muttered. It's so wet. I'm surprised they haven't gotten all web-pawed. He had a pretty good idea of where he might find Tawny Pelt. She had once told him about this huge chestnut tree behind the stream that led down into ThunderClan territory. Her eyes glowed as she described this favorite spot for sunning herself and catching squirrels, making Brambleclaw wonder if she was secretly missing the trees of ThunderClan. With any luck, she might be there now. Bramaclaw located the stream and began to follow it, sometimes gritting his teeth and splashing around in shallow hopes of hiding his scent from ShadowClan warriors. He saw a patrol crossing the stream a short way ahead. He crouched down behind a clump of sage until they had vanished into the undergrowth and their scent faded away. Not long after that, he came to the chestnut tree. Its roots twisted around him, stretching down into the stream. Bramaclaw thought he could detect a sister scent, but under the thick canopy of leaves it was too dark to see her. "Tawny Pelt," he called softly. "Are you there?" The answer came as a weight that crashed down on him, bowling him over. He let out a startled yowl that broke off as his muzzle was pressed into the damp earth. A paw landed on his neck, pinning him down with barely sheathed claws, and a voice growled close to his ear. "What are you doing here, you stupid furball?" Bramaclaw let out a gasp of relief. The claws retracted and the weight lifted off him, letting him scramble to his paws. Tawny Pelt was perched on a tree root, looking down at him. "If you were found here, you'd be crow food." "Crow food," she hissed. "What's gotten into you?" "Something's happened. I've had another dream." Bramaclaw quickly told her about it. Tawny Pelt settled herself on the root to listen. "So, Ravenpaw reckons it's a real place." She mused when he had finished. "You think StarClan wants us to go there? They don't ask much, do they?" Bramaclaw felt his ears droop. "You mean you won't come?" His sister's tail twitched irritably. "Did I say that? Of course I'm coming. But no cat says I have to like it. What about Stormfur? Why does he get involved? StarClan haven't chosen him." Bramaclaw sighed. "I know, but try stopping him. Besides, he's a good warrior. We might be glad of his support. We don't know what we're gonna meet out there. And another thing," he added, "he and Feathertail do everything together. I think it comes of having their father in another clan." "I can understand that." I can hear my sister playing music behind me. Tawny Pelt's tone was dry, and her brother realized how much sympathy she might have for the two River Clan warriors. Her father was dead, and both her brother and mother, Goldenflower, remained in ThunderClan. Tawny Pelt might well feel like a stranger in the clan she had chosen, but Brambleclaw recognized the pride that would not let her voice her loneliness, and a determination to be loyal to ShadowClan. Be a loyal ShadowClan warrior. Regret surged through him, not for the first time, as he thought of what a loss she was to ThunderClan. "You will serve your clan well by coming on this journey," he reminded her. "That's true." A trace of eagerness crept into Tawny Pelt's voice, and she grew stronger as she went on. "StarClan must have chosen us because they think we're the right cats. We must have something to offer that no other cat can give." She sprang down from the roots and landed with a soft hut at Brambleclaw's side. "ShadowClan has many strong warriors to keep up with the patrols. They could do without me for a while. When do we leave?" Brambleclaw let out an affectionate purr. "Not right now. I told the others the night before the half moon. We'll meet at Four Trees." Tawnypaw's tail lashed with enthusiasm. "I'll be ready. And now," she added, "I'd better show you to the border. Even one of StarClan's chosen cats can get his fur ripped off for trespassing." Whoa. Big stretch. Chapter 8. Snake Rocks is the best place in the forest to find Sherville, Cinderpelt explained over her shoulder as she limped along the fern-shaded path. "But we can't go there just now, thanks to that wretched badger." It's still there then?" Leafpaw asked. She and the medicine cat were on a herb-gathering expedition. The sun shone brilliantly from the sky that was clear again, but the rain had revived the forest plants, and Leafpaw was enjoying the delicious coolness on her paws as she followed her mentor along the narrow track. "So the Dawn Patrol said," Cinderpelt replied. "Keep your eyes open for—" Ah! She swerved into the ferns and up a sandy slope, where several clumps of a strongly scented herb were growing. The flowers were gone, but Leafpaw recognized the large, spreading leaves, and as she drew closer, she smelled the sweetest scent of chervil. Tell me what we use this for, Cinderpelt prompted, beginning to gnaw at one of the stems at its base. Leafpaw narrowed her eyes and tried to remember. The juice of the leaves for infected wounds, she mewed. And if you chew the root, it's good for bellyache. Well done, Cinderpelt purred. Now you can dig up a few roots. Not too many, though, or there'll be no more in the next season to come. She went on biting the stems while Leafpaw obediently began to scrape at the ground to uncover the roots. The chervil scent was all around them, making her feel lightheaded, but after a few moments she began to scent something else, something that reminded her of the acrid tang of the Thunderpath, though it was not quite the same. She glanced up and spotted a thin thread of smoke rising from a clump of dead bracken a little way down the slope. Cinderpelt, look! Cinderpelt, look! She mewed uneasily, pointing with her tail. The medicine cat looked around and froze, her neck fur bristling and her blue eyes blazing. Great StarClan, no! She gasped. Awkwardly, because of her injured leg, she began scrambling down towards the burning bracken. Leafpaw leaped after her and past the medicine cat in a couple of bounds. As she drew closer to the clump of bracken, a shearing light flashed, dazzling her eyes. Blinking, she made out something shiny and clear sticking out of the ground. Some spiky scrape of two-leg rubbish. The sun was falling straight onto it, and the bracken behind was slowly blackening and sending the wisps of smoke into the sky. Fire! Cinderpelt yowled, coming up behind her. Quick! Suddenly, the bracken burst into flames. Leafpaw sprang back from the wave of heat, turning to flee. She saw that Cinderpelt stood still, gazing into the scarlet and orange blaze that leaped hungrily at the brittle stalks. Was she frozen in panic? Leafpaw wondered. Sandstorm had told her about the terrible fire that had once swept through the ThunderClan camp. Cinderpelt had survived, but several cats had not, and the fire must be especially frightening to the medicine cat when her injured leg made it hard for her to run away. Then Leafpaw saw that Cinderpelt's eyes were not wide with fear, but something else. Her gaze was fixed and remote, and Leafpaw realized with a shiver from her ears to her tail tip that her mentor was receiving a message from StarClan. As quickly as it blazed up, the fire began to die, and Leafpaw let out a sigh of relief. The flames sank into bright embers and began to wink out, and the fronds of bracken disintegrated into flecks of ash. Cinderpelt took a step backwards. She was even more unsteady than usual. Leafpaw darted forward and pressed up against her side, supporting her and helping her to sit down. Did you see it? Cinderpelt whispered. See what? Oh, sorry. See what, Cinderpelt? In the flames. A leaping tiger. I saw it clearly. Its huge head, the leaping paws, stripes as black as night along its body. The medicine cat's voice was hoarse. An omen from StarClan. Fire and tiger together. It must mean something. But what? Leafpaw shook her head. I don't know, she confessed, feeling scared and helpless. Cinderpelt got shakily to her paws, shrugging off Leafpaw's attempt to help her up. We must go straight back to camp, she mewed. Firestar should hear about this at once. The ThunderClan leader was alone in his den under the high rock when Cinderpelt and Leafpaw returned. Nono and Firestar collab. Cinderpelt paused outside the curtain of lichen that covered the entrance and called out, Firestar, I need to talk to you. Come in, Firestar's voice replied. Leafpaw followed her mentor into the den to see her father curled up on a bed of moss by the far wall. His head was raised as if Cinderpelt had roused him from sleep, and when the medicine cat and her apprentice entered, he rose and stretched, arching his back so that the muscles rippled under his flame-colored pelt. What can I do you for? Just kidding, he didn't say it like that. He said, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Cinderpelt padded across the den towards him, while Leafpaw sat quietly beside the entrance, wrapping her tail around her paws as she tried to push down her sense of approaching danger. She had never seen Cinderpelt receive a message from their warrior ancestors before, and she was unsettled by the fear she had seen in her mentor's eye on the journey back through the damp green forest. StarClan have sent me an omen, the medicine cat began. She described how the two-legged rubbish had caught the sun's rays and set fire to the bracken. In the flames I saw a leaping tiger, fire and tiger together, devouring the break-in. Such power, unleashed, could destroy the forest. Firestar was crouched in front of her, with his paws tucked in and his green eyes gazed fixed on her face so intently that Leafpaw almost expected her mentor's gray fur to start smoking like the break-in burning under the hot sunlight. What do you think it means? I've been trying to work that out, Cinderpelt meowed. I'm not sure I'm right, but in the old prophecy, fire will save the clan. Fire meant you, Firestar. The ThunderClan cat gave a start of surprise. You think it refers to me now? Well, perhaps, but what about Tiger? Tigerstar's dead. Leafpaw felt uneasiness stir inside her as her father calmly named the fearsome cat who had shed so much blood in his quest for power. He is dead, but his son still lives, Cinderpelt pointed out quietly. She glanced at Leafpaw sitting in the shadows, as if she were uncertain her apprentice should be hearing this. Leafpaw stayed absolutely still, determined to listen to the rest. Brambleclaw? Firestar exclaimed. Are you saying he's going to destroy the forest? Come on, Cinderpelt. He's as loyal as any warrior in the clan. Look at the way he fought for us in the battle against Blood Clan. Leafpaw felt a sudden urge to say something in Brambleclaw's defense, though it was not her place to speak here. She did not know the young warrior particularly well, but some instinct inside her cried out, No! He would never harm his clan, or the forest. Firestar, use your head. Cinderpelt sounded irritable. I haven't said that Brambleclaw will destroy the forest, but if Tiger doesn't mean him, then which cat does it mean? And something else. If Tiger is Tigerstar's son, then maybe Fire is Firestar's daughter? Leafpaw flinched as if a badger had sunk its teeth into his fur. Oh, I didn't mean you. Cinderpelt turned to her apprentice with an amused gleaming faintly in her blue eyes. I'll keep an eye on you, don't worry. Glancing back at Firestar, she added, No, I think it's more likely to mean Squirrelpaw. She has a flame-colored pelt like you, after all. Leafpaw's brief sense of relief was swallowed up in a fear and dismay as she realized where the medicine cat's logic was leading. Her own sister, the cat who was dearer to her than all others. Was she prophesied to do something so terrible that her name would be cursed by all the clans, just as queens told their kids now that if they were naughty, the terrible Tigerstar would come and get them? My own daughter. She's headstrong, yes, but not dangerous. Firestar's eyes were deeply troubled. Leafpaw saw that he had too much respect for Cinderpelt's wisdom to argue with her interpretation, though it was bitter as mouse bile to hear. What do you think I should do? He asked helplessly. Cinderpelt shook her head. That's your decision, Firestar. I can only tell you what StarClan have shown me. Fire and Tiger together, and danger to the forest. But I'd advise you not to tell the clan yet. Not until I receive another sign. They'll only panic, and that'll make things worse. Her head swiveled to fix an icy stare on Leafpaw. Say nothing about this. On your loyalty to StarClan. Not even to Squirrelpaw? Leafpaw asked nervously. Especially not Squirrelpaw. I must tell Greystripe. Firestar mewed, and Sandstorm. StarClan know what Sandstorm will think about this. Cinderpelt nodded. That is wise, I think. And it might be as well to keep the two of them apart. Firestar spoke half to himself. Leafpaw could see how he was torn between doing his best for his clan and his deep feelings for his daughter and the warrior who had once been his apprentice. She's an apprentice, and he's a warrior. It shouldn't be hard, Firestar went on. We'll make sure they have enough to do, and not in each other's company. Maybe StarClan will send another omen to tell us when the danger is past? He suggested, glancing hopefully at Cinderpelt. Maybe. But the medicine cat's tone was not reassuring. She rose and flicked her tail for Leafpaw to follow her. If they do, you'll be the first to know. She dipped her head and backed out of the den. Leafpaw moved to follow her, hesitated, then rushed across to her father and buried her muzzle in his pelt, wanting to be comforted as much as to comfort him. Whatever this omen might mean, she was scared of it. She felt Firestar's tongue rasp warmly over her ear. Her eyes met his, and she saw her own sorrow and fear reflected there. Then Cinderpelt called, Leafpaw! From outside, and the moment was over. Leafpaw bowed her head to her leader and left him alone, to wait for further news from StarClan about the destiny of his cats. Chapter 9. Ravenpaw was telling Brambleclaw about the water thing. You know, I never once thought of doing audiobooks. But I'll pay top dollar for not even... I'm not that good yet. Ow! Oh, God. Sometimes I yawn too big, and it's like some sort of bone or tendon in my jaw clicks out of place, and I have to, like, push it back in. It hurts so bad. Done! I do it every week, you silly goose. Okay. I think I'm gonna end now. We still have 2 hours before the collab, but I want to make sure that I have dinner and drink some water. No, it's true. And then I'll be back with a stinky fellow. We have to give 20 subs every Wednesday to Nono. Think I won't? Not right now because of bills. And just wait. Bills are important. Ta-doo! Stinky! Yeah! Very stinky. So stinky. No cats died today, guys! How wonderful is that? No cats died today. Maybe next week. We're getting... But yeah, Cat, what you missed was basically Brambleclaw told Ravenpaw his dreams, and then Ravenpaw was like, oh, bro, that's a real place. And then Brambleclaw was like, what the... And so he went and he visited all the other cats of the prophecy and was like, hey, I had this dream. We should go find it. And they were like, okay. And so they're going to meet up and go find the place in Brambleclaw's dream. And then Leafpaw had... No, not Leafpaw. And then this Cinderpelt thing happened. Wait, Javas are a real thing? I only heard about them. Gamers don't shower. What about bath? Do you bathe as in a bathtub? Do gamers bathe? Bummer. The Sundrown place name. Me too! For some reason, I never remembered the part where he had the dream and described it as the sun drowning into the water. But now it makes more sense. So you just roll around in the mud in the backyard. Oh, that makes sense! That's what piggies do! I love piggies. Actually, I don't think pigs do that. They do that to cool down. Elephants do that also to cool down. Pigs are very, very, very neat. Did you know that? Did you know that? The pigs... Nono's a piggy now? I love piggies. Call me a piggy? Little piglet. Little piglet. They're really, really neat and tidy, and they clean their houses where they live. And then some piggies even pick flowers and then put them in their house nests for decoration. Do you know that? That's real. That's real. Pigs do that. Because they're just that wonderful. They're just that wonderful. They do! Really! Actually, cat. Is that true? Cat's the real farmer. Maybe I'm making this up. I don't know. Dust baths help animal choke out the tiny bugs. Oh, that's so wise. You really took away my French accent. It'll be back in a few hours. Once I end stream, it'll be back. It'll be back. But I want it now. Too bad. I'll see you in 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Wait. I'm gonna wait until 5 o'clock exactly. Found so many rolled ankles from not looking. Oh no. Your chickens dig holes? Wait, do they dig holes to roll around in the dirt, or do they just like digging holes? The anime protagonist voice? Wow. Done! The pig thing? Yes. Yeah, the piggy thingy! Nice. Now we know the truth. The real truth, that piggies are wonderful and they have little... Warrior! You're just in time for me to end! You're just in time. Lucky for you, I'm gonna stream again today, so I'll see you soon if you decide to come back. They dig holes to scratch and obviously kick up the dust and roll around in it. Everyone in the coop seems to share holes. They have their little holes! This hole... No, they're sharing holes. These holes are our holes. These holes are our holes. These holes are my holes. My dog figured out... So holy. So we have like these little planters where we put carrots in. And my dog can smell the carrots, but doesn't understand why the carrots aren't growing on the leaves. And then one day my mom was picking the carrots out, and then she like left like a kind of hole where the carrot had been, and my dog sniffed it and then figured out that the carrots was actually under the dirt, and so now she digs in all of our carrot gardens. It's pretty sad. Wants them. She wants to harvest the carrots. Smart pupper. Yeah, but then we don't get good carrots. She doesn't understand that they have to grow. She just sniffs. She sniffs. She checks on them. Tries to dig. We have to shoo her away. Whenever our roosters start digging, the hens come and dust bathe themselves. Aww. I think that's so funny. I would love to see... I want to see a chicken dig. Because they have to use their little feet, right? But they don't have, like, what kind of pose would they be making? It's just, like, in the spot, kicking? Or do they, like, toss themselves on the ground and roll about digging? These are questions that I should ask YouTube. Alright guys, no raid because I want you to come back. Our rooster is very quiet though and has only ever crowed when danger is near, and in the middle of the night we heard him crow and everyone was making distress sounds. Turns out there was a feral brown cat trying to break in and we shoot him away as our rooster was going frenzy. Aww! He was telling you about the cat, the meow meow. Alright guys. Probably Tiger Star. I won't put it past him. Alright, I'll see you guys in 2 hours. 7 o'clock. Yeah. That's all. We're gonna be playing Splabloon. So look forward to some spabooning. Have a great 2 hours. I'll see you soon. Bye!